The silent one. No one ever noticed her dot in the heart of the galactic trade station, where hundreds of species passed by every hour. She walked alone. Her name was Lika, a quiet, scaled alien from a low-gravity moon. She wasn't tall, and her deep gray skin made her blend into the station's metal walls. She had no bright colors like the feathered traders, no wings like the noble aviars, and no glow like the noble born of the light clans. She was just dot there. Others called her things. Drifter, half-blood, scaled nobody. But they never called her beautiful. They never called her anything kind. So Leka stopped expecting anything from others. She worked in silence, sweeping corridors, repairing lights, replacing vents, anything to stay busy and unseen. Until one day, a human transport docked. It wasn't rare to see humans. Earth had joined the Galactic Union decades ago, and their ships came through often. But this human was different. He walked with calm steps, wearing a dusty jacket and a smile that seemed too soft for a species raised on a death world. Lika was fixing a panel in Docking Bay 7 when he walked in. He paused when he saw her, not out of fear or disgust like others. Often did, but as if he were surprised. Not by her tools or the broken lights, but by her. Lika noticed his eyes, the way they didn't shift away fast like others. They stayed. They saw, "You all right there?" He asked. She gave a small nod, and returned to her work, expecting him to leave. But he didn't. "You've got steady hands. Most folks can't hold a torch like that without shaking." Lika blinked. Praise was rare. Compliments were unheard of. "I've done this a long time," she replied quietly, her voice low, gravelly. He nodded. "Looks like it." "Name's Mark. Ship engineer. Just passing through." She didn't reply. She didn't know how to keep conversations going. Most ended before they began. But Mark stayed nearby, watching the ships come and go, sometimes asking her small questions about tools, vents, or which side of the station sold real fruit. After 4 days, Lika got used to him showing up around her work shift. She never asked why, but he kept talking, and slowly she started replying. 1 or 2 words at first, then full sentences. Her tail even flicked once during a laugh, something she hadn't done in years. Then one evening, as they stood near the outer window of the docking wing, watching ships fly by, Mark looked at her differently. "You know," he said, voice soft. "I think you're beautiful." Lika froze. Her heart skipped. Her mind spun. She looked away quickly, thinking she had misheard. "What?" "I said," Mark repeated with no hesitation, "you're beautiful." A silence fell between them. No one had said that to her before. Not her family. Not her own kind. Definitely. Not strangers. She almost laughed, but the look on his face was serious. Not mocking. Not joking. She looked at her own reflection in the glass. Scales. Thin neck. Wide black eyes. She'd been called cold, ugly, creepy. Never beautiful. "You don't have to say that," she whispered. "I'm not saying it because I have to," he said. "I mean it." And for the first time in her life, Lika didn't feel like just another shadow in the background. She felt seen. Mark didn't ask for anything. He just smiled, nodded once, and said, "See you tomorrow." Before walking off, Lika stood by the window for a long time, staring into the stars. She didn't understand why his words mattered so much, but deep inside, something had started to change. Something warm, something new, something dangerous. If the others found out. But for now, she let herself feel it. The whisper that echoed. Lika couldn't sleep that night. Her tiny quarters, bare metal walls, a cold bed, and a flickering light had never felt this strange before. It wasn't the noise of the vents or the station alarms that kept her awake. It was that one word, beautiful. She'd never thought of herself that way. Her people had always focused on usefulness, survival, staying unnoticed. Beauty was for the higher castes or other species. She had been told her black eyes looked empty, her scaled skin was cold, her presence unsettling. But Mark had looked at her like none of that mattered. The next morning, she found herself checking her reflection in the metal panel before leaving. She straightened her collar, smoothed the skin around her eyes, and cleaned a small smudge off her forehead. Then she shook her head, annoyed with herself. What am I doing? She muttered. She had work. That was what mattered. The East Corridor's light grid had failed overnight. Lika grabbed her tools and went to fix it, but she was nervous. She didn't want to admit it, but she was expecting to see Mark Dot, and there he was, leaning against the wall near Docking Bay 7, arms crossed, waiting like it was normal. He smiled when he saw her. "Morning, Lika." Her pulse jumped. "Morning," she replied, keeping her eyes on her toolkit. "You good?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Busy. Grid failure in Corridor 8. Could cause a blackout if not fixed. Need help?" Lika blinked at him. No one had ever offered to help her, not even once. "You're not part of maintenance," she said. He grinned. "I'm an engineer. And I've got time." They worked together. At first, she gave short instructions. Mark followed them without question. He didn't treat her like a child. He didn't correct her. He didn't flinch when her clawed hands passed him tools. They finished the repairs faster than expected. And for the first time, Lika caught herself smiling while working. Later, while walking back, she asked, "Why are you always here?" Mark looked at her and shrugged. "Maybe I like being here." "With me?" she asked before she could stop. "Herself." He nodded. "Yeah, with you." Lika felt her throat tighten. She looked away, not sure how to respond. Was he lying? Was this some kind of game? But his voice had no trick in it. No laughter hiding behind the words. "Do you say that to everyone?" she asked quietly. "No, just you." She stayed quiet after that. They walked side by side for a while. Others stared. A few alien workers whispered. One even sneered and muttered something cruel in a thick dialect. Mark didn't react, but Lika noticed. She always noticed. When they reached the edge of the maintenance wing, Mark stopped. "I'll be leaving soon," he said. "Transport ship, heading to the outer colonies." Lika tried to hide her reaction. She just nodded. "When?" she asked. 3 days. She nodded again. "All right." He hesitated, then looked directly at her. "Lika, I meant what I said the other day." She looked up, meeting his eyes. "I know," she whispered. Then she turned and walked away before he could see the tear she didn't understand forming in her eye. Back in her quarters, she sat on the floor, breathing heavily. She hadn't cried. In years, not since she was a child. She didn't know why his words made her feel so light and heavy at the same time. 3 days. That was all she had left. A question stirred inside her, one she had never dared to ask before. Did she want more? Could she want more? But something else stirred to fear, because no one in the galaxy liked seeing a human and a low-born alien together. And someone had seen them today, not someone who would make it a problem. Asterisk. Whispers in the shadows. Lika noticed. The change the next day. As she walked down the corridor with her tools, she could feel it, eyes following her. Whispers behind her back. Steps that paused when she passed. The other workers, usually too busy or too tired to care, suddenly looked at her like she had grown wings or started glowing. One of the higher-ranked security officers, a broad-shouldered insectoid named Varn, blocked her path near a loading. "Doc, you've made a new friend," he hissed, his mandibles twitching. Lyka stayed calm. "I don't cause trouble." He leaned closer. "Humans don't belong with our kind, especially not your kind." I didn't do anything wrong. You don't need to. You're being seen. That's the problem. He walked off without another word, but the message was clear. They didn't like it. Not her talking to Mark. Not her being noticed. Not her smiling. She told herself it didn't matter. She had lived through worse. But when she saw Mark that day, the smile she gave him was smaller. "Hey," he said, noticing. "You all right?" She nodded, then paused. "People are watching." "Let them," he replied, sitting on a nearby crate. "I'm not doing anything wrong. You don't understand. Around here, things don't have to be wrong. They just have to look wrong." Mark frowned. "I've been through enough stations to know what that means." He didn't. Press further. He just sat there while she changed a filter in a ventilation panel. After a while, he spoke again. "When I first started traveling through space, I thought aliens would be cold, distant, maybe even dangerous. But then I met people like you. Strong, quiet, kind, misunderstood." Lika looked at him. "You really think that?" "I do. You don't pretend. You don't lie to fit in. That takes more courage than most people ever show." She turned away, blinking fast. No one had ever called her courageous either. "I have to be careful," she whispered. "I know. But I'm not scared." That night, when she returned to her small room, someone had scratched a message onto her wall. "Stay in your place, lizard." Her hands shook as she stared at the words. It wasn't just a warning. It was hate. A reminder of what she was in their eyes, less than them. Less than nothing. She sat in the dark for hours, staring at the wall, hearing Varn's voice again. Humans don't belong with your kind. But something had changed inside her. For the first time in her life, she wanted to stand up. She wanted to keep what little happiness she had found. The next day, Leka made a choice. She waited for Mark at Docking Bay 7. When he arrived, he was surprised to see her waiting there with both hands behind her back. "Hey," he said, smiling. "Didn't expect you here first." "I wanted to ask something," she said softly. "Before you leave." He nodded. "Anything." She stepped closer and opened her hands. Inside was a small necklace metal wire, shaped into a spiral, holding a smooth, glowing stone at the center. It was old and simple, but clean and carefully wrapped. "I made this a long time ago," she said. "Kept it hidden. I never gave it to anyone." Mark took it gently, his eyes soft. "It's beautiful. It's not much." "It is to me." Lika looked down. "When you go, I'll be alone again. But I won't forget." He stepped closer. "You don't have to be alone." She looked up, confused. "My captain said there's an open spot on the ship. Engineer's assistant. It's not fancy, but it's real work. Honest work." Her heart jumped. "You mean?" He nodded. "Come with me." She stared at him, stunned. "Leave? Go into the stars? With a human?" The offer was more than a job. It was freedom, a future, a chance to finally belong. But it also meant danger. And she knew. They wouldn't let her go that easily. "I need time," she whispered. "You have 2 days," Mark said gently. "We leave on the 3rd. She nodded slowly, heart pounding. 2 days to decide. The choice that meant everything. Leka didn't. To sleep again. The offer repeated in her mind like a broken signal. "Come with me." She had dreamed of leaving the trade station before, but only in passing thoughts, like stars you glance at and forget. But now, she had a real choice. Stay where she was silent, ignored, insulted, or go with someone who saw her as more than her skin, her rank, or her species. By morning, she had almost convinced herself to say yes. Almost. She returned to her duties like usual, but the whispers had grown louder. "Look at her, thinks she's special now. She get what's Coming. She should have stayed invisible. Even the workers she'd known for years avoided her eyes. And Varn? He watched her more closely than ever. He approached her again, this time while she was checking a faulty wiring panel in a high-security wing. "You think you're leaving?" he asked. Voice sharp. She didn't answer. "You really believe that? Human would protect you out there? You won't last a cycle. No one out there wants your kind." Still, she said nothing. He leaned in closer. "You leave with him. You'll be hunted. Mark my words." She looked up at him then, not afraid but tired. "I already live hunted," she said softly. Varn hissed in anger and slammed the panel shut before walking off. Later that evening, Mark found her sitting alone near the ship hangar. She was staring at the stars through the dome glass. "They ever scare you?" he asked, sitting beside her. "The stars?" she said. He nodded. She thought for a moment. "No, the darkness between them does." He looked up with her. "Yeah, I get that." She turned to face him. "I want to go. I really do. But if I leave, they might come after you too." Mark smiled gently. "Let them try." She frowned. "Why would you risk that?" He looked her straight in the eyes. "Because no one should be trapped where they were. Hated. And because I meant what I said. You're beautiful. Not just in looks, Lika. In strength. In the way you've survived." She lowered her gaze. "I'm scared. I know. But I'll be with you. You won't face this alone." The words settled into her heart like warmth in winter. Then she nodded. "I'll come," she said. Mark smiled, and for the first time, Leka smiled with him, without hiding it. But someone had been watching. A quiet figure stepped back into the shadows and tapped a communicator. "She's going with the human," the voice whispered. "Tell Varn. Tonight." That night, as Lika returned to her quarters, she sensed something was wrong. Her door was open. The light inside flickered. She stepped in slowly. Everything had been torn apart. Her tools broken. Her bedding slashed. The small drawing she had made of the stars was burned, and the necklace, the one she had kept for years, was gone. On the wall, a message was carved deep. "You're not leaving." Her hands shook, but she did not cry. She reached into her floor vent, where she kept a hidden pouch of emergency supplies credits, a station pass, and a small shock device. She clutched it tight. Then she ran. She found Mark at Docking Bay 7, running diagnostics on the ship's engines. "They trashed my room," she said quickly. "They know I'm going." He stood up at once. "Are you hurt?" "No, but they'll try to stop me tonight." Mark didn't hesitate. He opened the hatch. "You're coming aboard now. But your ship doesn't leave until tomorrow. I'll make the captain change that." As they entered the ship, a siren wailed through the station. "Alert. Unauthorized personnel entering restricted vessel." They both froze. How did they? But before the sentence finished, the sound of boots echoed down the corridor. Varn was coming, with others, weapons drawn. And Leka knew this wasn't just about keeping her here anymore. This was war. Asterisk. The run to freedom. The corridor lights flashed. Red. Leka and Mark stood just inside the ship's loading ramp as the alarm kept screaming. From the far hallway, the sound of boots grew louder. Many boots. Heavy. Fast. They locked the outer bay doors, Mark said, fingers flying across the control panel inside the hatch. "They're blocking the launch sequence." "How many of them?" Leka asked, gripping the shock device tightly in her hand. Mark glanced through the ship's small external camera. "At least 6, and Varn's leading them." Leka's chest tightened. She had known they would try to stop her, but not this fast, not this hard. "I have to override the station's lockout," Mark said. "But I need time." "How much?" 10 minutes, maybe less. They both knew that was too long. Lika looked around, scanning the walls, the side vents, the wiring ducts. She had fixed this area hundreds of times. She knew the corners others ignored. I can distract them, she said. Mark froze. No, I won't let you. I'm not asking, she cut in. I'll lead them to the vent tunnels. Buy you time. When the lights blink twice, launch. No matter what. He stepped toward her. Lika, I didn't bring you this far to lose. You know. She reached out and grabbed his hand. You won't, but I won't let you die for me either. Their eyes locked. For a moment, the chaos outside didn't exist. Then she turned and ran down the side corridor, disappearing into the darkness. Lika moved fast. She ducked through a maintenance shaft, leapt over pipes, and slid down a side tunnel that circled back toward the docking ring. Her tail scraped against the metal, her breath short, but she didn't stop. She kicked open a small hatch and stepped into view right in front of Varn and his team. There she is. Someone shouted, "Stop her!" Varn roared. Lika turned and bolted back into the vents. She knew they'd follow. She wanted them to. She made noise loud enough for them to chase. But she stayed just far enough ahead to avoid getting caught. She twisted through narrow shafts, past fuel lines, and ducked under wiring panels. Behind her, footsteps pounded closer, but she reached a dead-end chamber first. A supply room, empty and sealed. She slammed the door shut and locked it. Trapped. Just as she expected. She raised her shock device and aimed it at the main console. I'm not going back, she whispered, when Varn's team blasted open the door. The flash from the device exploded into white sparks, blinding them. Meanwhile, Mark was racing. The override code was almost complete. The ship's engines were warming. The hatch was sealed. But his eyes kept flicking to the side camera, praying for a sign. Then the dock lights blinked twice. He slammed the ignition. This is the Silver Wind, disengaging. Mark shouted through the comms. Unauthorized launch stand down. The station ordered. Negative. Emergency Protocol 17. Threat to civilian crew. Initiating departure. The ship roared as its thrusters fired. The clamps holding it to the station broke free. Outside, the docking claws tried to close too slow. The Silver Wind shot forward. Mark gritted his teeth, watching the rear camera. No. No. He whispered. Then, just as the engine screamed into full power, the side hatch burst open, and Leka dove in, coughing, covered in smoke, her uniform scorched. Mark grabbed her before she collapsed. You made it, he breathed, holding her. She looked up at him, eyes shining. So did you. Behind them, the trade station shrank in the distance. Varn and his soldiers stood in the docking bay, staring at the stars where the ship had vanished. He smashed his weapon against the wall. She'll never survive out there, he growled. On board? Mark helped Lika into the med chair. You saved us both, he said. She winced as he cleaned her arm. I wasn't going to let them decide my life anymore. He paused, then reached into his jacket and pulled out the necklace she had given him. I wore this the whole time, he said. Felt like it gave me luck. She smiled weakly. Maybe it did. Outside the window, stars passed in long golden trails. Freedom. Space. A future that hadn't existed yesterday. Lika watched the stars in silence, her head resting back. I'm not scared anymore, she whispered. Mark sat beside her. Good, because we're just getting started. Asterisk a new sky, a new self for the first time in her life. Lika saw open space from the window of a real starship. It was endless. Bright stars glowed in every direction, like scattered embers across a dark sea. She stood there quietly, leaning against the frame, letting the silence wrap around her. Mark walked up beside her, a steaming drink in each hand. He handed one to her. It smelled sweet something humans called tea. You okay? He asked. Gently, she nodded. Still feels like a dream. Give it time. Soon this will feel more like home than anywhere else. She took a slow sip. It was strange, warm, but good. Mark sat on the floor near her. We're 2 jumps away from the outer colonies. After that, we'll hit the mining belt. It's not luxury, but it's safe. And the crew already knows about you. She looked at him, alarmed. You told them? He nodded. Told them I brought someone on board who saved my life. A damn good tech, too. She blinked. They don't mind? He shrugged. One guy grunted. The rest just nodded. We're a mix of outcasts and wanderers ourselves. No one cares where you came from, only if you pull your weight. Lika didn't reply at first. Then a small smile touched her lips. I can pull more than that. The days that followed were strange but good. Lika worked beside the crew, fixing minor faults in engine coils, clearing carbon buildup, rewiring power conduits. She was quiet but efficient, and soon even the toughest engineer nodded when she entered a room. She didn't hide her face any more. She didn't hunch her back to seem smaller. And Mark stayed close, not in a protective way, but like a friend, who simply enjoyed being near her. One night, as they sat watching a starburst from the deck, he asked, Do you ever think about going back? She shook her head. That place never felt like home. I only stayed because I didn't think I had another choice. You do now, he said. Yes, she whispered. I do, but peace never lasted long. 5 jumps later, while passing near a deep space trade beacon, the ship received a message. It wasn't a regular con. It was an encoded scan alert broadcasted on a Union security channel. Mark read it on the control screen and froze. What is it? Lika asked, stepping beside him. He turned the screen to show her. Her face was on it. Wanted, unauthorized escapee from Delta Trade Station. Reward for capture or information. Like his breath caught. They tracked me? Mark's jaw tightened. They're trying to make you look like a criminal. The screen showed her ID, twisted details, false charges, theft, station, breach, unauthorized military tech access. I didn't do any of that, she whispered. They know that. But they also know what fear can do, Mark said. They're hoping some bounty hunter will come chasing. Lika lowered her head. I'm putting you in danger. Mark stepped closer. You gave me a reason to fight for something good. You think I'm going to back away now? She looked into his eyes. I need to clear my name, she said softly. Not for them, but for me. They changed course. Instead of hiding, Mark and the crew plotted a path to a neutral moon colony, a place with old records, open databases, and a chance. To prove the truth, Lika worked nonstop during the flight, digging through station backups she had downloaded during her escape. It took hours, but she found something. A video. A recording from the maintenance camera outside her quarters the night her room was destroyed. It showed Varn entering, breaking her things, carving the threat into her wall. She saved it to 3 locations. Got him, she said. Mark smiled. Let's make it public. They reached the moon colony 2 days later. Lika stepped onto new ground-free ground with her head held high. She uploaded the footage to the colony's network, shared her story. The truth. And in less than 1 hour, thousands had seen it. Messages poured in support, anger at Varn, and others like him. A few even called her a hero. She didn't know how to react to that. Mark found her outside, sitting on a bench, watching the moons rise. He sat beside her. You know what people are saying now? She shook her head. They're saying you're the face of change. Lika laughed softly. I was just trying to survive. That's what makes it powerful. She looked at him. And you? Why did? You really helped me? He leaned closer. Because when I looked at you, I saw someone who deserved to be more than just a shadow. Her voice trembled. You were the first to call me beautiful. And I meant it. They sat in silence as two moons rose above them. This time, Lika didn't feel small beneath the stars. She felt seen. She felt alive. Asterisk, more than just one life A. Week passed on the quiet moon colony. Lika's story had spread far beyond what she expected. Across Union channels, independent forums, and even human colonies, people were talking not just about her escape, but what it meant. She received messages from others who had been treated like shadows, alien workers, station outcasts, hybrids, pushed aside by caste laws. They told her, "Your voice gave me courage. I never thought someone like me could stand up. Because of you, I'm not hiding anymore." At first, she didn't know how to respond. She never meant to inspire anyone. She just wanted to be free. But Mark reminded her gently, sometimes the smallest spark lights the biggest fire. And Lika, once silent, once invisible, started to believe it. The silver wind stayed longer on the colony than planned. The crew helped upgrade the local systems while waiting for Union agents to arrive. Because now, there was more to do than just escape. They were going to confront the truth. 2 Union investigators landed. They were cautious at first, professional, neutral, armed with thick reports and old protocols. But when Lika handed over the footage, the logs, the backup files, their expressions changed. "You were framed," one of them said plainly. "This wasn't justice. This was control." Lika nodded. "I'm not the only one they've tried to silence." "We'll look deeper," the other said. "This kind of abuse, it goes beyond one station." They left with promises and evidence. And for the first time, Lika felt like her past wasn't chasing her anymore. It was behind her. Finished. That night, the moon colony held a small gathering in the open courtyard under the stars. Lanterns floated in the air, and people from many species came to listen to the girl who once thought she had no voice. Mark nudged her. "You don't have to say much. Just be honest." Lika stepped forward slowly. She stood on a small platform, looking at faces of all kinds, feathered, scaled, furred, and human. Her voice was quiet but strong. "I never thought I mattered," she said. "I spent years blending into the walls, hiding my face, hiding my heart. But someone saw me. Not because I was useful, not because I was powerful, just because I was me." She paused. "He called me beautiful, not just in how I looked, but in how I survived." The crowd was silent. "I didn't escape alone. I had help, and now I want to help others. If you've ever been ignored, pushed down, called a mistake, no. This, you deserve to be seen. You deserve to speak. And you're not alone." Someone clapped. And more. Soon, the courtyard rang with the sound of cheers, louder than anything Lika had ever heard for her in her life. And it didn't feel strange anymore. It felt right. Later, as the crowd thinned, Mark found her standing near the edge of the cliff, watching a slow meteor shower streak across the night sky. He wrapped a soft blanket around her shoulders. "You did good," she smiled. "I still don't believe this is real. You'll get used to it." She turned to him. "You know, when I first met you, I thought you were foolish." "I'm human," he said with a grin. "We do that sometimes." She stepped closer. "But you were also kind and brave. And you never asked me to change. You didn't need to." Her eyes softened. "I've changed anyway." He touched her cheek gently. "Not into someone else, just into someone free." She leaned into him, letting the quiet moments settle between them. And under the stars, where her story had once begun with silence and fear, it now ended with warmth and light. Months later, The name Leica became more than just a person. It became a symbol. Her speech was shared across hundreds of systems. Her image, once ignored, became a sign of defiance, hope, and dignity. A new wave of outcasts stepped forward, guided by her courage. And in the far reaches of the stars, the girl no one had ever called beautiful, became the one the galaxy would never forget. Asterisk.